bit under our belts, feel a little less new and chaotic this year, which is really nice. And I will again be helping lead the NOFO this year. I'm going to pass it over to Jen to introduce herself as well.
Thank you, Kelsey. Good morning, everybody. Great to see folks. Thanks for making time for this meeting today.
Jen, we may have just lost your voice.
Oh, or I just never got off mute. Here we are. Good morning, everybody. I'll start over. Sorry about that. Great to see you all, and thanks for making time for this space this morning. I know it's very kind of fast-paced given NOFO season and timelines. My name is Jen Ozawa, and I serve in the role, I use she, her pronouns, and I serve in the role of Procurement and Policy Manager at KCRHA. And what that means is that we will likely be working together if you plan to apply for any new funding. My team is responsible for leading the procurements for any new dollars related to CoC or any other fund sources that KCRHA manages. We are also recording too to ensure that folks who aren't able to attend still get this information. So please let us know if that is an issue. If not, we are starting to record now. We'll turn it over to my colleague Eli.
Hey, good afternoon or good morning, everybody. I am Eli Griffin. I use any gender pronouns, and I am the CoC coordinator at KCRHA. So I am providing support to Kelsey and Jen during the NOFO process this year. So you'll hear from me, but they really are the two main leads for this. All right, and hand it back over to Kelsey.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to see if I can get the poll up. So pardon me a second. Let's see if it's been completed. Okay. So a lot of you, this is not your first NOFO, but a little under half it is. So, and some of you, it's been a while. So we've got some new folks this year, which is great. Welcome. It's a fun time. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did, because I kind of really enjoy this, as chaotic as it can be. So we want to go over a bit about the NOFO this year, some changes from last year, and then we want to go through the local process and timeline that we have for you all. First and foremost, the NOFO in all its glory is due to HUD September 28th by 5 p.m. There's a slight caveat to this because as the collaborative applicant, we have to post all of the NOFO material, the priority ranking, as well as the consolidated application 2 days prior to the deadline. So HUD gives us a due date and then says, really, it's 2 days early. So we are kind of working on that September 26th deadline of getting everything posted and advertised online that we have finished it. A couple other little things have changed or been updated this year. There's been an increase to the CoC planning grant. This is the grant that supports our ability to do CoC-wide activities, the 2 convenings that we have, CoC trainings, monitoring, and overall kind of admin and support for the CoC as a program. One thing that is also new but does not apply to our CoC is that any communities that were granted the YHDP or the Youth Homelessness Demonstration Program in 2016, those are now being folded in to the CoC program and are not separate in the YHDP. So that means that things that are funded by YHDP from the 2016 round will actually be rated and ranked. Again, that doesn't apply to our CoC. Our YHDP program started in 2018. So while those will be ranked, they are not rated. So those are not part of the competition itself. There are a couple of new eligibility items in terms of cost eligibilities. There are some VAWA cost budget line items that were added to assist in emergency transfer. If you need more detail about that, please reach out and we can send it. It's also kind of explicitly written out in the NOFO, but there are some new allowed expenses to support folks who are fleeing from violence. There's been a change in the Federal Relay Service text phone. They're now using the Federal Communications Commission, so there's just been a slight change in how that is accessible. One that I think is really important to note is an amendment to the homeless criteria. And this is an amendment to the definition of Category 4, which is the one that kind of encompasses those who are fleeing or attempting to flee domestic violence. It's been amended to include an individual or family who is experiencing trauma or lack of safety related to fleeing or attempting to flee DV, stalking, sexual assault, or other form of violence. So the pieces that were added was the experience of trauma as well as other forms of violence. So it's really expanded what that definition can be, which hopefully will be, allow programs to just serve more folks who are experiencing different forms of violence, and be able to create, safety and stability for those households. A couple of things that are similar to last year, but a little more emphasized. Last year, there was a greater emphasis on racial equity, and that is just kind of continuing to improve. There's been revised rating and scoring around evaluation of racial disparities and how COCs, so the collaborative applicant, which is KCRHA, as well as providers, are identifying barriers that have led to racial disparities and what steps have been taken to eliminate those barriers in order to improve racial equity. So there will be kind of more attention on what have you done. So no longer just we plan to do, but we have done or we are doing will be things that are really taken into consideration. Similar to the racial equity emphasis is greater emphasis and continued emphasis on support to LGBTQ+ individuals and households. Really looking at how are both the COC and individual providers implementing and training on anti-discrimination policies to ensure that LGBTQ individuals and families are receiving the support services, shelter, and housing free from discrimination. So again, HUD is really wanting to see the action that's being taken in order to ensure that there is equal access for all individuals and family, and that folks are getting the support that they need. Tiering will again be required this year. And for those of you who are new, I will kind of explain what tiering is. So HUD requires that we submit a priority listing of our grant renewals of all the projects that we're putting forth in the NOFO. In this long list that we will prepare, there will be tier 1, and this is the tier that's kind of the, like, we are guaranteed to get this money, these programs funded. Tier 2 is what is put into the national competition. So these are ones that have a risk of not being funded or fully funded. This usually is dependent upon the score of the COC and the collaborative application. Historically, our COC has scored very well, and we have not experienced tier 2 programs not being funded. So while there's a risk, it is not a huge risk. This year, 93% of the money that we are able to request from HUD will be in tier 1, while 7% will be in tier 2. All of this information will be shared with you all prior to submission to HUD about the project ranking and what tier the project is in. So that is something to be aware of, and we will discuss grading and ranking in a moment. This is a very full slide, so pardon me, but wanted to share what the kind of HUD and COC program priorities are this year for 2023. Some are very similar to last year, some are slightly different, and the order is slightly different. Number one is ending homelessness for all persons. Number two, which is up in the order from last year, is using a housing first approach. There has been kind of a renewed emphasis on housing first and a renewed emphasis on how that is being monitored and how that is being accounted for in programs. You'll see in the local application that was sent out last week, I believe it was, that we are asking everyone to provide your housing first kind of procedures, philosophies, as well as completing for each project the HUD Housing First toolkit for kind of a self-assessment. And this is really in response to this increased emphasis on the housing first approach that is coming from HUD. The third priority is reducing unsheltered homelessness. We next have improving system performance, flagging that the NOFO this year really increases the points that are available for system performance and the rating factors. So this is something that we look at, and we gather all that from the HMIS data. The other one that there is significant point increase and available points for is partnering with housing, health, and other service agencies. A big emphasis on partnerships with healthcare related entities. And healthcare is defined really broadly. So it encompasses behavioral healthcare as well as physical healthcare. So there is a question at the end of the local application really asking about what are some partnerships that you have, or how do you kind of maintain these connections. So really important to kind of articulate that and see, what are current relationships, or what are things that your project has been thinking about doing to kind of improve relationships with healthcare providers in order to really focus on whole person care and well-being for participants. The other priorities that HUD has is, again, racial equity. So emphasizing system and program changes that are addressing racial equity in the COCs, improving assistance to LGBTQ individuals. Again, we talked about the increased emphasis and scoring on that part. Persons with lived experience as experts in our work. So HUD is also really wanting to see, how are we incorporating the people who are accessing our programs in the design of programs, in the oversight of programs? Do we have folks who are sitting on boards? Do we have folks in leadership positions? Are there other ways that you are actively getting and engaging with participants to just improve the work that we're all doing collectively? And the final priority is increasing of affordable housing supply. This is really more at the COC level, so this will be something that will be in the collaborative application that we'll respond to. All right, I'm going to jump us into our timeline. And I'm going to kind of go through all these, and then at the end, we'll stop sharing screen and have questions and answers. So if you've got questions, please hold on to them until the end. So our first kind of timeline bit is really about activities that are happening in August. Today, we are having the renewal workshop. That is right now. For some reason, not on here, is also today at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock. I'll remember. But we are having an information session on the bonus dollars. It will both be covering the general COC bonus as well as the DV bonus dollars. So if you're interested in applying for new money, please attend that workshop as well. Tomorrow, we will have a session for direct grantees. This is for the handful of you who are agencies that get a grant directly from HUD. So the grant doesn't come to us and then we contract with you. You are contracting directly with HUD. There are some obligations you have, and as a part of the COC and in collaboration with us is the collaborative applicant. So we look forward to seeing you there tomorrow at 1 o'clock. I should have flipped these, but that is neither here nor there. Also tomorrow, we're gonna have some call-in hours. So if you have any specific questions about the local application process, we'll be available for those conversations. This was also not fully updated. It is not via Google Meets, it is via Teams, because we have switched over to Microsoft. The next kind of big date to be aware of is August 28th. That is the due date for all of the phase 2, the local applications, all of the renewal grants, as well as the new grants. There is a stipulation in the NOFO that all project application material has to come to the collaborative applicant 30 days before the deadline, which the deadline is the September 28th. So we need all materials from grantees by August 28th. So that is part of why we need it. We have to then do the rating and ranking, and that process will happen. We've started getting some of the HMIS information, and then from about August 24th, we'll be starting to gather some more of that data from HMIS through hopefully September 11th is when we are aiming to have the preliminary renewal rank order. Everyone will be informed of that before it's publicly posted. So you will be getting information from us about that. This is a little bit redundant. So the 28th, we will also be making sure we have all of the other supporting forms. So we may need to be reaching out to you for 501c3 documents. Many of you, we have the documents from last year that we've kept on file. But we may also need to reach out to you to get match letters, especially if you have in-kind match. We have to submit match letters in the project applications. So those we, in the interim between now and the 28th, we'll also be coordinating to get all of those. For direct grantees, we ask that you have completed and submitted a PDF of your eSNAPS application to us as well. We need to review those before they're officially submitted to HUD. So that 28th deadline is a very important one. September 13th is the next kind of HUD mandated deadline. So all the ones that you're seeing up here are HUD mandated deadlines that we have. By September 13th is when we will be doing a community meeting. We will be presenting the final priority rank order, and all projects will have been notified by then about your rank order, your funding, and kind of other pertinent information regarding the priority listing for HUD. And then last but not least is September 28th. That is the day that we need to make sure we have taken all the screenshots, met all the deadlines, and have submitted, hit submit in eSNAPS to get all of this information in and sent to HUD. We ask that you be as responsive as you can during this time. We know it moves really fast, and we are always aiming to give you as much time as possible in order to fully respond to these things and get applications in. We know we are asking a lot. The NOFO is not a simple process, and there's a lot of kind of technicalities that we have to make sure we're doing based on what the NOFO is stipulating. So please be responsive to any emails that you see that say COC program alert. Those will all come via email. And if you have any questions, please contact us at the COC email. That's coc.questions@kcrha.org. A little bit of kind of the numbers of what we have. So we have a full estimated ARD. ARD is the annual renewal demand. This is the amount of money that HUD says, this is how much money you are able to renew from us. So that's a little over $56 million. In tier one, which again is that 93% of the ARD, is just over $52 million. So we have about $4 million that's kind of in the competition that will be in tier two. This year we have CoC bonus money that has increased about $1 million from last year. So we have $3.9 million in CoC bonus for permanent housing options. And we'll talk about that later today. And then the DV bonus that we have available, which is really stipulated for rapid rehousing programs, is about $1.5 million this year. And the CoC planning grant was increased from 1.25 to 1.5 million. Again, the ARD does not include the YHDP projects, so those will not be tiered. Those are in a separate section of the ranking order. I think the other one I have covered. All right, so a little bit about the local application. This was sent out to all of you last week from quite a bit of feedback from last year. We are not asking you to submit in Smartsheets. We have created a fillable PDF and ask that you submit this via email to us, to that coc.questions email. The due date is August 28th by 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And the different sections that we are looking at. So there's first, and all of these sections are kind of stipulated by what the project renewal application in eSnaps that we submit to HUD looks like, as well as the rating and ranking measures that are also stipulated by HUD. So things that we need to take into account as we do the rating and ranking process. So we'll first look at the CoC project efficiency, effectiveness, and recipient performance. So we look at grant spending, HUD monitoring or auditing, recipient and subrecipient grant information. So looking at the APR reports, locks, draws, invoicing. We will then look at the CoC priority measure information. So system performance, program component priority, project match, housing first practices. We look at mainstream resources and SOAR training. And then we have a number of narratives that we ask you to complete. One is to kind of inform a little bit more of your housing first narrative, getting information on your program termination and low barrier housing policies and practices, how you engage participants and get feedback. And then we have a section on equity, so looking at both racial equity and inclusion of LGBTQ individuals. So those are the areas of the local application that you will see. At the very bottom of the application, we've got a couple of additional questions. These are questions that are directly from the renewal in eSnaps, but are not scored. So that is something new this year in the local application that you'll see. That's just really getting for information purposes for us to complete the project applications in eSnaps. eSnaps is the portal to submit everything for those who are new and don't know what I mean when I keep saying eSnaps. eSnaps is the grant submission portal. And this is a picture of eSnaps. If you are a direct grantee, one thing that you'll need to do is update your project applicant profile in eSnaps. So you'll go in and just make sure you're updating. The big thing to be looking at is the HUD Form 2880 and the Code of Conduct. You want to make sure that those are uploaded and that HUD has them. And that's the main thing that will change from year to year if you're a direct applicant, is that HUD Form 2880, and then just ensuring your Code of Conduct is there. We'll also review this tomorrow for direct grantees. So if you're not a direct grantee, if you get your contract from KCRHA, you can ignore this. All right, a couple of things on what is next. I'm gonna just keep being a little redundant and repetitive. Please watch out for any emails from either Jen or myself around COC programs, COC program alerts, and being as responsive as possible. We are going to try and give you as much lead time for requests, and know that some things are a little out of our control with the NOFO, but what we can be in control of, we are going to try and give you as much time as we possibly can. Again, virtual office hours are going to be tomorrow, August 11th from 2 to 3 p.m. So if you have questions, please hop on. We will be there at your beck and call. And kind of throughout the next few weeks, please reach out via email. We are more than happy to respond to questions that you have, walk you through things. We're here to support you all. Again, August 28th, please mark this on calendars. This is when we need to have all of the COC project applications complete and ready for submittal to eSNAPs. We need to submit all federal forms, 501c3 documents, match documents, direct grantees. We need to have your applications in eSNAPs. It's, again, this is a HUD requirement. We are not setting this deadline, but this is something that we are setting due to the stipulation from HUD that all materials or all the applications need to be to the COC, which is KCRHA, no later than 30 days before the HUD deadline. So please help us meet this deadline. All right. That is what I have for you. And now we've got quite a bit of time set aside for questions. I don't think we will, well, who knows? We might need the full hour that we have left, but we may not. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see all of your faces and do any questions that folks may have. That was a lot and it went quick, and we are recording this. And we'll also send out the slides to you all. There is a link on our website for the meeting for tomorrow. Let me put that in the chat right now.
And I'll just jump in. There's a couple questions in the chat. Want to make sure it's super clear, sort of the various different roles within this application process, because it's kind of unique. If this is your first year, it's not the typical sort of I don't know, grant application per se. So what we mean when we say KCRHA is the local applicant is that, and that's the distinction between the due dates, which there was a question in the chat before. So we have our local process, and what that means is, you know, everybody's working hard over the next few weeks getting us this information that's required by HUD. And then what we're doing, KCRHA is doing as the lead applicant on the back end, is inputting all of those applications one by one. And then that's where the rating and ranking is communicated to HUD. And then we submit the full package of all of the information from you all, plus any of the other application information for the new bonus funds also go into that rating and ranking. And then we package that together with, that's then sent to HUD through eSNAPs. And that is essentially our community, our COC's application that becomes becomes part of the national competition. So all of the stuff that we're gathering as a community is then evaluated by HUD, and then that is when they make their determinations on how they want to sort of fund and resource COCs nationwide. So apologies. I know these timeframes are just very, very quick. We are kind of at the whim of HUD when it comes to that. And it's always sort of a guessing game every year. Folks who've been doing this for a while know that. We never know exactly when HUD is going to drop the NOFO. We kind of have a general sense. But until we know that, we can't actually flush out timelines super clearly in advance. So hopefully that's some helpful context, helpful in understanding all these various different deadlines and why and what's driving those. But we use your local application information to then input into the consolidated application that's then reviewed at a national level as far as like a grant competition goes. And then the renewal funds, just want to also make sure this is really clear because I got some questions about this, are if you have existing COC grants as an organization, you are eligible to apply for the PSH bonus funds that we talked about, or the DV bonus funds as well, if you have programs that meet those guidelines. And invite any folks who might be interested or wanting to learn some more information to join us at 1 o'clock today to learn more about those two RFP processes. And they are full RFPs, completely contingent upon our final award from HUD, which we will not know until 2024. Couple other questions around in the chat. Just want to make sure. What period of time will HMIS data be reviewed? Is it calendar year 2022?
That is a great question. And I believe we have that in the introduction information that's on our website. And I think I sent that out. The last couple weeks have been a blur, so please pardon me. But the date, the time frame will be April 2023 through March, or April 2024 through March 2023. So that's the kind of timeline that we look at for polling of HMIS information. I'm looking through if there are any other questions that we've missed.
Match.
From the chat.
Match is required.
Yes, match will be required. I do not foresee HUD taking away the match requirement ever. And part of that is because COC funds don't really increase year to year. The only increase that we typically see is in fair market rent if you have rental assistance in your grant. So there's really never like a COLA increase to the COC grants. So part of that match is looking at how else are you sustaining this program? So I see explaining on how the YHDP funding is incorporated into this application. Great question. So the YHDP is a part of the COC. That bucket of money is dedicated to youth programs, and part of HUD's priorities is ending youth homelessness, so not wanting to make those competitive. This was a pilot that was started in 2016, so they're still relatively new. And there are some special activities that the YHDP programs are allowed to do that are not allowed in regular COC programs. So those are kind of kept separately and are really just, we're renewing those. We're not competing to renew them. So that's part of why they're a little bit separate. I will not go into the other pieces around 2016 YHDP programs because I don't want to cause confusion. But for us, just straight up renewal.
Yeah. Can I just ask, that was my question. So I think, like, again, we're new to HUD funding, we're new to King County Regional Homeless Authority. it's not clear to me if there's anything we need to do for your COC application, if that's the case.
The local application we sent you is what you'll need to do. So filling that out, because that will give us some of the information that informs the project application that we submit to HUD. So as the COC collaborative applicant, we submit every single application for every single grant that we receive directly in eSnaps. So we have to submit all of the YHDP applications. We are submitting all the rapid rehousing applications, transitional housing applications. In order for us to do that well, there's information that we need from you all to inform that. A lot of things won't change year to year, but there might be some slight changes or shifts.
And I guess like, so we don't even have our contract signed with you guys yet. Like we are still in the process. So like,
Yep.
Is what we are doing right now satisfying is gathering the information and getting you the contract satisfying what you need for this? Or is there something else that we will be doing in addition to trying to get the contract signed? Like, that's what I'm trying to understand.
Yep. So this is the piece about the COC dollars, because every year we have to renew with HUD. So we have to do this NOFO process every year. And part of that is we are required to have a local competition and a local process. So we ask everyone to do basically the same thing every year and repeat the application process every year. The piece that gets kind of confusing, I think, is that a lot of the contract timelines for HUD are a year behind. So the process we're doing right now for the contract that the contract you're working on now is what we did last year, is from the process from last year. And it often gets delayed. So we didn't hear about the NOFO and what was renewed, what levels things were renewed, what bonus projects we got until late March or early April. And we are just now getting the agreements from HUD for programs that may have started back in May. So things get really delayed in terms of we did this last year. Why are we still working on it now? Because it's HUD.
So
Thanks, HUD.
we are reapplying for next year.
Yes.
Even though we don't yet have a contract.
Yes.
For this year.
Yep.
Okay, and we're just resubmitting what we just submitted in the last couple months.
Yep.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. There is discussion on a federal level of moving the NOFO to a biannual process, so we do not have to do this every year. Please put pressure on, whoever in Congress that you can reach out to about why this being on a 2-year cycle would be welcomed. Even a 3-year cycle would be great. We know that for the COC, there is so much that happens constantly. Yeah.
Thank you.
And please feel free, again, reach out if there's any questions. Some things just don't make sense with this process. And so it's not the most intuitive, especially for folks that are brand new awardees and you're, expected to, answer these questions before you just got your grant agreement signed, so yeah. Please reach out. We're here to walk alongside everybody in these spaces and accomplish this as a community successfully. I think there was one other question. I just want to make sure we didn't skip over it. It was about neighbor care. As a recipient of CoC grant, we are required to attend the first session, but neighbor care health does not provide housing. Are we eligible to apply for funding? So great question. for I'm assuming that's in relation to the new bonus RFPs that are active right now. You can absolutely, anybody can apply that meets the requirements for the program models. Both are kind of geared towards permanent housing, not services only. So if Neighbor Care had that as part of their plan to expand services and get into the housing world, then that would work. One thing to highlight, though, that might be really strategically helpful to the COC is HUD does want to see COCs who are successfully leveraging healthcare resources, like Kelsey mentioned before. So maybe getting with a housing partner who is interested in starting rapid rehousing or starting a permanent supportive housing program and combining your services could be a really potentially competitive proposal, both locally and then nationally too. So that's what I would recommend as far as like if your services only and not the housing component, partnerships are highly encouraged.
Other questions?
Question from Olga. It seems like different actions items apply to different organizations based on where they are at in the process and whether they are direct grantee versus sub-grantee. I'm confused where our organization stands, and I hope to get clarification on how this applies to the organization. Please let us know, Olga. We're happy to walk through the process. Like I said, being a new grantee is kind of complex and doesn't make sense because you barely just, haven't even got started, but you're being asked for performance information and things like that. And that's just HUD. Blame it on HUD. We can expect to receive information for this process that applies to each individual / organization specifically. Okay, great questions. Yes, there are slightly different processes like you're pointing out. There are a select few organizations who are direct grantees who do have a different process to follow. That workshop is tomorrow. So if that does apply to you, which you should know, if you don't, let us know. Then please come to that and we'll get much more detail around how the process works for direct grantees. If you are a sub-grantee, which should be everybody here in this space, hi baby, then you'll follow the instructions that have been sent out by Kelsey and Kelsey's team. It's that fillable PDF form is the main thing to focus on for sub-awardees. Anything else to add, Kelsey?
Yes, for those who are like brand new grantees, you are just getting the program started. We know you will not have answers to all of the questions. You will not be rated. Your programs will be ranked, and the way that we rank brand new programs is we rank them one below the lowest rated program of the same program type. For YHDP, very different. But for example, Open Doors for Multicultural Families, your program is connected to PSH, so it would be ranked below our lowest rated PSH program because we can't rate you. There is no HMIS data for us to be looking at. So we are well aware, HUD is well aware that is the process for brand new projects. So that is something to kind of keep in mind as well. Any other questions that folks may have? All right. Well, we are giving you back some time. Go work on those applications. If there are questions, please reach out. You can reach out directly to myself, to Jen. Anything about renewals, send my way. Anything about bonus money or new money, send Jen's way. Or you can also send anything to the coc.questions email address as well. We will see hopefully some of you this afternoon in the bonus session, and we will have call-in hours tomorrow at 2 o'clock, as well as the direct grantee meeting at 1 o'clock. And as always, throughout the next few weeks, we are here to help support you. Our goal is to not just get the collaborative application, the COC level really well and really ready, but to really make sure that all of your projects are successful and that you all feel confident in what it is we're doing collectively. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.